care of one another.
Right. And I was wondering, Priya, if you want to talk a little bit about your experience as a caregiver here. I touched on a bit
Mhm.
taking care of my grandmother, growing up, and how that caregiving experience has been. I was wondering what landed you into caregiving and how that experience was here, since you took care of your dad here in US.
It's interesting because I've never thought of myself just entering into this world of caregiving. I didn't even know that that's what I was doing. I would say towards the end of the experience of the 12 years, I started to realize like, oh, this like as I start to seek out more help and I was more interested in some different spiritual texts and things like that. And I was looking for what it was. I realized, okay, so maybe this is what I've been going through is caregiving. I considered myself a dedicated daughter. And I think that journey came from always playing a role of caring for my family or taking care of them in a lot of different ways, even as a child and being the eldest Indian daughter, and that sort of traditional lens into all of this. So when it happened for me, it was, of course, you get the call of, there's something going on, and then it becomes multiple doctor's visits. And because it was 12 years, there was over a course of time. So the care process looked really different as time went on. It started with my dad walking. His gait was very unsteady, and he was just sort of going from one step to the next step very, very difficultly, and with a lot of difficulty. And then it affecting his speech, where it became like slurred. And I start to work with, his speech. I had an acting background, so I could help him with the vocal training. And you can see just how life has set me up in different ways to be able to take what I've learned and apply it to this experience. And because really I was grasping at whatever I could at the time. I didn't think about life setting me up for this. I was just seeing something that seemed like a crisis and being able to say, okay, what do I know that can actually help? And then having that happen in a way that was pretty positive for him and for me, and in a way where I could feel like I had even just a semblance of control in the experience. And then it moved to him using a walker, to him using a power chair, to him having speech aphasia, which means he wasn't able to speak. He just lost his ability to speak.
Mm.
So it was, again, then pulling from my background and helping him learn American Sign Language, just bits and pieces, things that, hand shapes and things that he could do so I could understand, so he could feel heard. And so also in turn so I could also feel heard when I was speaking to him. And so there was like this like partnership of focus and partnership of just working together in the experience. It didn't mean that we didn't have difficult moments. I think the care experience is one that it has a multitude of emotions, and it can lend itself to very traumatic moments and very traumatic, experiences for many. And it can also lend itself to like these moments where you have like this epiphany, and you just realize, wow, I just sort of like delved as deep as I possibly could with this experience. And if we allow it, we realize that there's a question I always say, what was in the making of me from this experience, and what is in the making of me from this experience, and being able to take from both those painful moments and those moments where I just had those moments of epiphany, and just those moments of, elation, because something was happening, something was helping, and really sort of like, again, taking that and making it a through line into the experience itself as a whole.
I think you brought up so many good points here, Priya, about when we talk about the impact of caregiving on us. A lot of times life didn't, it just happens, right? We didn't sign up to become a caregiver. We didn't take a course in it. Um, it just happens. We get a call, and here we are trying to do the best we can for our loved ones. And suddenly we need to be ready and trained for something that we never signed up. I think part of what we were discussing earlier, the culture helps in that. If we have seen that and growing up, and looks like you kind of face that, I think that's something many of us get put into that situation, and then we are trying to figure out what is it that we can do right now in this moment to get through for all of us. How do we support our loved one through these difficult moments? And we're trying to grasp at the skill sets that we have, or the resources that we have. So I think that was a really important point that you brought up. And the other one is, it results in a new type of partnership, because the relationship or the dynamics of the relationship we have with our parents can change when 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 this loved one becomes sick. I saw that happening too, especially with my father. He went through open heart surgery. um, so someone who's used to being the head of the family and the decision maker, and being the male lead, coming from a traditional background, suddenly the roles were shifted a little bit, because now he needed support of his family, and especially of me as the eldest daughter. And we had to form a new type of communication to make things work. Right. So I think that was another really important point you brought up, is about how we can recognize that the relationships um, dynamics will change, and it can be a little bit difficult, and it's about figuring that out between us, so that we can find a way to move forward. Another important point you brought up was